Hi everyone, it's Dale here from Bits of Nature. I want to show you something today that, if you're not careful, can crop up in your own scans of flowers and leaves. Let's take a look. Sometimes when taking flower scans, some interesting things can crop up. Let's take a look at this image. Some hosta blossoms, a common and reliable bloomer in our garden, but sometimes some interesting things show up. Looks normal so far, just the leaves, the petals, nice rich greens. But if I keep zooming in and zooming in, you'll finally see what I'm talking about. An insect wing just stuck on the tip of one of the blossoms. Clearly it was torn off from the insect that, shall we say, donated it. You can see it glistening a little bit in the light from the scanner. The veins and everything. Just a microscopic little thing. And yet, hiding up on that tiny blossom way up there. It shows up because these are such high resolution. This image is at 1200 bits per inch. But it gives you an idea of what can show up if you're not careful. Here's another work. This has been completely cleaned up, edited all around to make it black and make the flowers really pop. A nice little collection of purple and lavender flowers from our garden. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Everything looks normal. Don't see anything amiss here. Well, because this is the finished goods. Now let's take a look at what some of the original artwork was like. Here's what that same flower section looked like before it was completely edited. What the heck is that? Well, it was a little tiny worm that fell onto the glass surface of the scanner and was moving when the scanner lights are hitting it. And so you can see the different colors as each of the three different colors were scanned. We're getting different reflections because this little critter was moving during the scan process. You could see other artifacts, some little bits of pollen and the hairs that hadn't been cleaned up yet. But it's quite interesting to see how that little guy was moving around. Now, if I switch back to here, you'll see it doesn't show up at all. Well, yes, because I used the magic editor functions, magic eraser and cloning to get rid of that little guy and make him disappear. So again, Photoshop has a remarkable ability to interpolate between different areas and say, oh, this is noise, dust, etc., and erase it and make the resulting image look like that. Here's another example. I'm zoomed way in. It's gotten a little pixelated because of that. And sure enough, there's a little hitchhiker, tiny, tiny mite. You could just see a little bit of hazy green background from leaves that were way in the distance, so to speak. This guy was probably less than a half a millimeter in size in real life, just the tiniest of little mites. But he was making tracks as he's walking across the scanner, enough to move that each color of the three primaries was captured as separate images. Here's another example. This is a tiny floret. The actual blossom is about 3 to 4 millimeters across. So this little critter is maybe 2. Had he sat still, probably wouldn't have noticed him much. He's nice and dark head and legs, but because he was wiggling, moving just a little, there came the color artifacts. This one was pretty tricky to edit out. The eraser took care of a lot of it, but I still had to do some careful clone stamping to make sure I eliminated this little fly and left nothing but the flower. What am I talking about when I refer to the magic eraser and clone stamp? Well, here's an example of that same image that I had cleaned up the little critter from down below. And I'm going to zoom in and you'll see what I'm talking about. I have artificially put an artifact on a flower petal. When I say artifact, I mean something like a hair or a piece of pollen or some dust that's not part of the actual flowers. That's what I remove. I don't take away any of the flower leaves or add any in. It's all a, quote, natural image. But I do want to eliminate, quote, mistakes. Well, what can I do? Well, the little magic eraser here, spot healing a brush is the official term. I can simply paint over that area with my mouse. And voila. Now you notice I didn't quite get enough of it. There's still a little halo around here. That's okay. I can take a second pass and fix that up as well. And it is gone. The software does an amazing job of interpolating and And even if there were lines underneath, it would actually figure that out. Looks like it was never there. Now I'm going to put that back. And instead of that tool, I'm going to use the clone stamp. So clone stamp lets you take one section of image and echo it over another one. So I could pick an area that's clean, let's say by right here by holding the Alt key and clicking. And now if I paint, I'm painting over this with data from that other area. That may not be so obvious here, but let me go do it down here. I'm going to kind of make an artificial mistake and pick green. You'll see it's taking that green, and as I move around, it moves the source in parallel with it. So as I move my painting up here, it's going to also clone a moved area down here. I don't use this very much. The healing brush is so effective that it does a really great job. But there's occasionally times when it's an extremely complex area and I need to clone from something that's more precise. Anyway, that's a couple quick techniques, and I guess I'll leave you the advice of when you are catching or picking up your flowers, make sure that you've done a good job of checking them over. Even if you shake them gently and carefully blow against them, you're very likely going to find some little critters, some little friend hitchhikers, as I call them, that'll still be your images. But enjoy. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful for you, and happy scanning.